All right, cool. So thank you, Caila. This is Caila Zappala. Thank you for making the time today. I know your time is very valuable. You're accomplishing a lot of great things, and that's actually why I wanted you to come on and share a little bit about your experience in working with women pre and postnatal when it comes to their health, overall health, when it comes to nutrition, the way they think about their bodies, the way they exercise and get physical training as well. So I really appreciate your time jumping on with me today.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. So can you tell us a little bit, who is Caila Zappala?
Yes, I am a pre and postnatal corrective exercise specialist and diastasis and core consultant. And then I most recently got the PregnancySāf Elite Coaching seal as well. So all of that was done through Fit for Birth, and I help women prepare for childbirth, prepare for labor, and recover afterwards. So everyone's goals are different, but I help them kind of stick to their goals, whether it's fitness related or really just like overall health, like you mentioned, you know, whether they're pregnant or trying to just get back to normal life afterwards, because life can be pretty challenging once you have a little one hanging on you all day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such a courageous thing to do, first and foremost, to work with this demographic of people that women specifically that are about to, or they have experienced one of the most life-changing things that a human could ever experience. So I think that's really incredible what you're doing as far as making a positive impact with this very important group of humans. Can you tell us a little bit more about BalanceZen and what was the catalyst in starting this company of yours, and what kind of led you to ultimately helping this group of people?
Yeah, so I was a college athlete. I played soccer, up until I was 21, and that ended with a really nasty injury, which led to more injuries. And my most recent set of injuries was my hips, both of them. And I had surgery on each side. And with that, I just had like a lot of anxiety around how I was going to have healthy hips to support children one day if I wanted any. Not that I had made the decision at the time, and I still, it doesn't matter, but I was like, how are these hips going to heal? And then if I want to one day have children, will I be healthy enough? And nobody could really give me an answer until maybe one day my PT I was really struggling through the recovery of one of them, and he put a few things together that my pelvic floor may not have been engaging properly due to all the trauma that I had been through. And I was also teaching bar classes at the time, and I also felt like I couldn't answer anyone's questions, pregnancy or postpartum related, even though my cert had said I was certified to coach pregnant women. I just didn't feel equipped for this at all. So between my injuries and my experience teaching and just feeling like I didn't know enough, I just went down the rabbit hole of research and figured out where I could get the best education around all of this. And I discovered that there's so much information that is not shared and needs to get out there and into the hands of women, because as you know, they make up, more than half the population. And I think it's like 80% of women will have children. Maybe, I think that's the right percentage. So a lot of people need this information.
Sure.
And I started this company just to get that information out there. And the name BalanceZen also just ties into the fact that through my injuries, I know that things can be overdone and we can get injured just by like overdoing certain exercises or certain workout routines. And so I try to coach all of my clients through balance. And then also I try to ease their anxiety through Zen with the information that I'm providing along the way.
That's awesome. Can you talk a little bit more to the process? So somebody reaches out to you, whether that's prenatal, postnatal, and what is kind of the system that you take them through so that they can have the most healthy outcome?
Yeah, it totally depends on their goals. So for first start out everyone with an assessment, especially if it's a one-on-one client or into like a group intensive program. So I have a few different assessments that I work through, and we find out where their imbalances are in their body, and then tie everything back to the core and how their core is functioning in certain exercises. And from there, I would build out, back into their goals, but build out from there.
Very cool. And what is the emphasis on the core? Can you explain that to, like somebody like me, like a male who may not understand exactly what that means?
Yeah. So when I talk about the core as it relates to pre and postpartum, I'm really talking about like the deepest layer of the core. So not your 6-pack abs that everybody wants so bad. It's the deepest layer, your transverse. And that's connected to your diaphragm. So if your diaphragm is at the bottom of your rib cage, and then your transverse abdominals are sitting right in the front, and then that wraps around to the back. And then you have your pelvic floor that sits at the bottom. So you have this like little canister, and you can imagine this. Think about when you engage your core, you're kind of massaging your organs and keeping the intra-abdominal pressure regulated throughout your day. And men have pelvic floors too. They probably, most of them don't realize this, but all of these things have to work together. And so that's why I start with breath and core function. Because you can imagine we all have organs that need that pressure and it to be regulated, so that we're not just holding in all day, or we're not just pressing out all day. It has to kind of flow with the breath in order to keep everything regulated. But then when you add a baby in there, it becomes extra important to have that movement and the pressure that's regulated. Because if you can imagine, if you're holding your core in really tight all day, just as an example, it could be like, if you think of a balloon right here, I'm going to squish everything in, and then the pressure is going to come down or up. It has to go somewhere.
Right.
So that's why the emphasis is so big on the core. And yeah, there's this major, what do you call it? Like myth that women shouldn't be doing ab exercises during pregnancy. And maybe it's because the ab exercises that doctors assume they're doing don't incorporate this type of pressure regulation.
Understood. Got it. Thanks for clarifying that. It is comforting to know that your approach being individualized and catered to the specific individual, and addressing kind of like this 360 holistic approach to core stability and strength is very reassuring to know that you're really considering the function of the female abdominal system, and making sure that it's capable of this life-changing experience, and even after that making sure that they're still strong and capable in the functionality of that very essential part of our body. Can you please share with us any positive experiences for people that have found your services extremely valuable, and how they've improved their current situation, and even having the tools to continue living a healthy life?
Yeah. So I love when I get a pregnant client early enough that I can teach all of these things too, and really watch the progress all the way up until their due date. And there's always that hesitation. So, their doctor has told them not to do core exercises, not to use their abs. And that is just really a fear of separating the abdominal wall, which can totally happen. And it does happen, but that's a whole nother story. So when they come to me and they start, and I ask them to find this breath where their diaphragm expands and then comes back in, and they engage their abs, there's always a like, oh, I can't do this, and I shouldn't be doing this moment. And as I talk them through and explain everything I just, said to you here, and then I really explain to them, because if I have them late enough, they're already struggling to breathe because they're just limited with space. So if I explain that 360 expansion through their diaphragm, and then bring back like the core engagements necessary for that, they have an aha moment where this just like light bulb goes off and their face just lights up and they're like, oh, and then they have this really cool feeling where they can hug the baby up and in, and it's almost like they just feel more connected to their baby, and they just get really excited and they're like, oh, like I can do this and it's okay and it feels good. And yeah, one of my favorite stories is one of my clients had that moment. She was so excited, and then she also was dealing with a lot of neck pain and hip pain, a few different things, but her neck was really like, if I said, what's the one thing that's bothering you? It was her neck. And like 3 weeks after practicing this with me and on her own, that's really important. She came back and said that her neck pain was like going away and it was so much better and she could move about. And she actually said it to me multiple times. She felt so much stronger at the end of her pregnancy than she did about like halfway through when I had started working with her.
Wow.
And now after she had her baby, obviously, I had like 2 sessions with her, and it was just like so easy to get her back to functioning properly because she learned everything before, and it wasn't like relearning or teaching her something new. It was just reminding her of how things need to come back and how to engage things properly. And she's doing really well. So that's one of my favorite stories.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure the confidence that comes with that is just, rolls over into other areas of her life. And she's just able to benefit in so many different ways just from learning from you and being able to use it in that experience that's unique to her.
Yeah, it gives all of my clients this sense of empowerment where they feel like they have control over their growing bellies, because they always have this moment where they're just like, it's just getting so big, I can't do it, and I don't know how to move about the house anymore. And once they get this like deep connection and that support, they, the aches and pains go away, and then all of a sudden they feel like, oh, I can use this when I need it. And it's almost like a protection mechanism, like protecting the baby or protecting their low back. Like they can start to think about it that way, and then they just feel like that sense of calm, that they have that in their back pocket when they need it.
Oh, I love that. That's really cool. Very, very neat. I can imagine that not the entire population of women who are pre and postnatal are working with you. So what makes these individuals that you've essentially hand selected to work with you to be clients of yours, what uniquely makes them pre-qualified to being exposed to your expertise and your knowledge that you can help them with?
Yeah, well, they really have to be willing to learn some of this stuff. And I'm not saying I pull out all my tricks for every client, because it's not necessary, but if they're going to come to me with certain goals or certain aches or pains that they have to be willing to learn some of the stuff that applies to that, and then kind of go home and practice it. Because a lot of this is like very, if you do it every morning, like once a day, it really trains your brain to use your body in a certain way, and eventually you don't have to think about it, but it does take that groundwork. And then otherwise, I get people who are just really curious about how their body will handle pregnancy. They're not pregnant yet. They're just like, I'm super active, I'm not going to give this up, but I do want to have kids one day. How am I going to get there? And so I have a lot of fun working with them and educating them on how they're going to continue their current active lifestyle, or how they may have to change it. But getting that groundwork done early on gives them a much better chance at being able to hold up whatever workout routine that they desire. So everything from that point in their life to postpartum, it could be years after they've had their children, multiple children, and they could still be dealing with incontinence or just general pelvic pain. Diastasis is a big one. I mentioned earlier, that's that separation that can happen. You can notice like that pooch, or like the mummy tummy that everyone calls it. And sometimes people just have this feeling of like, I don't feel my core working. And I'm sure you can probably imagine how weird that would feel to someone as an active person. So that can come up at any point, but moms are busy. Sometimes they don't address it until years later, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's never too late to heal some of those things.
That's very comforting to know, because I can imagine that if internally you're struggling with some of these feelings, these negative feelings, you can just feel like you're just going to write it off as that's just how my life is going to be forever. And what you're saying is you're helping people discover that that is not the reality. That
Yeah.
with the right guidance and the right protocols and the program that's specific to that individual, you can really breathe life back into these individuals so that they can maintain their active lifestyle, to up the quality of their life. And just through working with you, I think that's really fantastic what you're able to accomplish.
Thanks.
Caila, thanks so much for sharing a little bit of background into who you are, the types of people you help, and the story and mission behind BalanceZen. If people would like to reach out to you, my audience or people that are just seeing this, hearing this, how can they reach you?
Yes, I always answer my Instagram messages, so it would be at Caila_Zapp, Z-A-P-P, and my first name is C-A-I-L-A, which I'm sure you'll put here, but
yeah.
And then my website has my schedule, and everything I've got going on is balance-zen.com. And there, I think you can reach me through email. The website leads to all roads, so that's a good place to start.
Awesome, fantastic. I'll make sure that the people that see this have your Instagram account and your website readily available, so that they can reach out to you if they have any questions pertaining to your specialization. So Caila, thank you again so much for carving out time out of your busy day. I know you're accomplishing some incredible things to empower women, specifically this unique demographic of women. So thank you so much for all the great things that you do and the hard work that you're putting out into our space. And I look forward to doing this again soon.
All right, thanks.